Coming up on Lafayette Lens, we'll show you the new technology of 3D printing and how you can use it to make practically anything, anywhere, for better or for worse.
Then, we analyze the millennial generation, also known as First Globals. Are we destined for leadership or to live on our parents' dime?
It's all right now on Lafayette Lens. Good evening, I'm Dan Valadares.
And I'm Kelsey Gula. Welcome to Lafayette Lens, a partnership between PBS 39 and Lafayette College.
We've spent the past semester examining two issues affecting our world and our political economy class.
We begin with additive manufacturing, also widely known as 3D printing.
This new technology allows you to print three-dimensional objects from digital designs, and it's revolutionizing the way manufacturers and consumers customize and produce merchandise. So what products can a 3D printer make?
Here with reporter Andrew Lanzaro is a college professor to show us a few products made with a 3D printer. Andrew?
Thanks, Dan and Kelsey. I'm here with Jeffrey Helm, a mechanical engineering professor from Lafayette College. Professor, how does 3D printing actually work?
Well, probably the most amazing part about 3D printing is you start from literally nothing, a black, flat piece of plastic. And suppose we wanted to build a coffee cup. So we would start with a model of the coffee cup in the computer, and then we would slice the coffee cup into individual layers. Then you'd start at the bottom and you trace out and build that very first layer. Move the black plastic down a little bit, trace out the next one, layer 3, 4, 5, and eventually you've almost got a coffee cup. And it's all because you can put thin layers together that you can get almost any shape that you want in 3 dimensions.
Here we have a variety of 3D printed objects, some of which were made using the 3D printer at Lafayette College. Others were made by West Pharmaceutical Services near Philadelphia. Can you tell us about them?
Sure. Well, the first is this ancient Chinese lute, which was produced at Lafayette in order to study what it would feel like if you actually had it in your hands, so you could very quickly produce a shape and explore it. The second thing is this set of hand grips for a syringe for people whose hand strength has been compromised. Once again, you can explore a whole number of possibilities and then come up with which are the things that are going to work best for me. And you can do this quite quickly and easily using 3D printing.
Thanks, Professor. And although you may not have access to a 3D printer, we're going to show you how easy it is to design your own 3D printed objects online. There are several websites that sell 3D manufactured products. One website called Shapeways allows you to customize and design your own 3D printed products. These products range from a ring to a small action figure of yourself. I was able to take this traditional sake pitcher and customize it to my own unique preferences. The next step is to pick out the material for your product, like metal or plastic. 3D printing has given people the opportunity to design products specifically to their preferences, and these products can be yours with just a few clicks. And it's that easy. I ordered this customized sake pitcher for $150. I even made this action figure of myself for $30. Hopefully I'll look something like this on graduation day. Dan and Kelsey, back to you.
Thanks, Andrew. Now we head to Lafayette's Acopian Engineering Center, where we'll get a closer look at the technical aspects of 3D printers.
Reporter Caroline Craver shows us how it all works, from design to the finished product.
Professor James Ferry, a chemical and biomolecular engineering professor at Lafayette College, takes us through the process of 3D printing using 3 machines. The design process is the first step. This is as simple as uploading the design file you want to a computer.
So engineers or manufacturers would work with a computer program that is computer-aided design to produce what's called a stereolithography file. And that file contains the information of how to print a part one layer at a time.
In this next step, we can see the machine printing layers of binder and powder.
The printer actually takes and prints layer by layer that design into a metal powder. And so you start with a metal powder, it's rolled smooth, and then the printer head is actually an inkjet printer that instead of printing ink, prints glue. And so that printer head comes across the powder and prints a 2D layer of glue into that powder.
Professor Ferry explains how the ring is cooked in a curing oven that produces a very fragile ring.
After the printer prints the part, it's in the green state. And what that means is it's very soft because that glue hasn't been hardened. That's what's holding together the metal particles. And so you have to take that printed part and put it in a curing furnace, and the purpose of the curing furnace is to harden that glue so the part can be handled.
The final stage is the sintering stage. Here we see Professor Ferry transform the ring from the very fragile green stage to a ring that is made of metal.
Then that part that is glued together is only as strong as the glue is. And so then I need to put that into the sintering furnace for heat treatment. The heat treatment is I raise the temperature of the metal just below its melting point, so those metal particles that are touching now fuse, and that fusion then makes the part as strong as a metal junction.
With a machine like this that has endless possibilities, Professor Ferry makes an interesting point about how powerful these printers truly are.
Honestly, I could print anything. So this is a pluripotent manufacturing facility. I could print anything.
While Professor Ferry said he could print anything and everything, I'm happy with the ring he printed me today. This is Caroline Craver for Lafayette Lens.
Next, we'll hear from a Lafayette alumnus and trustee who has made a career out of what he calls the next industrial revolution.
I got the chance to sit down with Kent Rockwell as he touched upon the important aspect of education within this growing field. Kent Rockwell, the chairman and CEO of X1 Company, will discuss the different dimensions of 3D printing and additive manufacturing from a senior perspective to give us a better understanding of this revolutionary technology.
Additive manufacturing is getting a great deal of exposure in the world today. You're seeing it more and more print across the globe, and there's a lot of discussion about what additive is. And 3D printing, which is, in my mind, a subsection to a certain degree of additive manufacturing.
What role should higher education look to play in the industry?
That's got to be dependent on the universities. We have right now 22 machines in different universities, with the idea that every year another herd of kids comes out of these schools and learns the value and the power and sees the potential for future, because they are the innovators. When you get into that kind of technology development, I think it's the youth of the world that finds it most innovative. Think about manufacturing in its total concept of trying to make the perfect product in the lowest cost, shortest period of time. Disruptive technology, generally disruptive technologies come when a small player comes with a technology that is capable of game-changing the industry to where the large guys are disrupted out of the process and somebody takes over their position. They will end up usurping the market position of the staid and older companies that refuse to adapt to these new processes. The customers are going to have to say, can I afford not to have this if my competitors do? This will drive more and more the necessity to have 3D printing as the only viable alternative to achieving your final product development.
To see more of our conversation with Kent Rockwell in the 3D printing industry, head to policystudies.lafayette.edu.
From dentistry to prosthetics to audiology, 3D printing has become a staple in the healthcare industry. Thanks to this new technology, patients can receive life-changing medical devices quickly and easily.
Reporter Sandy Levy spoke with an audiologist at St. Luke's Hospital in Bethlehem about the personal side of 3D printing.
Yes, audiology, please.
Audiologist Dr. Sarah Jones explains how 3D printing has changed the way she helps her patients.
Over the 12 years that I've been dispensing hearing aids, there has been a transition from a previous technology to the 3D printing. All of the patients that I am fitting with the instrument are very much affected by this technology in a positive way. I feel that with the technology, it's more of a precise fitting. Some of the issues that we may have had with getting a comfortable fit have been resolved with the new technology. So what we're looking at here are a few different examples of the types of hearing instruments that we dispense, and really the best aspect of this is that I can pick up the phone, I can call the technician at the manufacturer, we can have a conversation about if there is any issues, and I think there is a better solution.
Dr. Jones says 3D printed hearing aids have become an expectation in the audiology industry.
I do feel that there is improved patient satisfaction with this new technology. One of the things that we have to again consider is the individual's hearing loss, and that has a significant impact on their life. And when the patient comes to me and is telling me with this better, improved fitting, oftentimes I'm doing a better job at preserving their hearing.
These custom hearing aids are just one example of how 3D printing is making vast improvements to healthcare in our area. I'm Sandy Levy, reporting for Lafayette Lens from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Clearly, this technology is changing lives and creating a new cottage industry of manufacturers. So how long will it be before you and I have 3D printers in our own homes?
Not long, according to the owner of one 3D printing business in Middlesex, New Jersey. As reporter Jake Hyatt explains, 3D printing is becoming more accessible than ever before.
You can do quick prototypes. Let's say someone sends you a file, and often that happens, that somebody already has made a design, they send you a file, we can simply print it on the machine behind me here.
Jerry Lynch is the CEO of Sigma Design, an engineering company that offers 3D printing services to businesses and individuals who want to see their ideas become a reality. Mr. Lynch talked about how 3D printing has changed the way products are designed and manufactured.
The whole world is changing. What we find a lot of people doing is they'll go through their prototype process, build 1, 3, 5, 10, and then get ready for mass production. And then depending on the economics, it may remain a 3D printed part, or it might go to injection molded or CNC machining.
He also discusses how 3D printing gives a greater freedom of design to individuals, especially those who want to invent new products.
Most of our customers historically have been engineering companies and manufacturers. Now, more and more percentage each year are inventors and do-it-yourselfers are saying, hey, I got an idea, I can sketch it out, can you help me make it real?
Mr. Lynch believes 3D printing technology will continue to become more affordable and accessible to the community.
Now, at $1,500 or $2,000 a piece, we're finding that individuals, clubs, universities are buying them where they wouldn't have bought them in the past. And I think that trend is going to continue, and we're going to see it in libraries and local communities and do-it-yourselfer clubs that can pitch in and, collectively for $50 a piece have their own part of a printer. So I think that in the end, it'll be universally available. Yeah, I would say that at some point, that not everyone will have a 3D printer, but everyone will know someone who does.
Jake Hyatt reporting for Lafayette Lens from Middlesex, New Jersey.
So let's say we invent something and produce it using a 3D printer. Can we sell it? Get a patent for it?
New technology often leads to new laws and regulations to protect ideas and to keep us safe. Reporter Ryan Yard spoke with an intellectual property attorney and Lafayette alumnus to help explain the emerging legal issues when it comes to 3D printing.
Joining us now is attorney Scott Blooney from Boston to discuss the legal issues of 3D printing. Mr. Blooney, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Are the technologies surrounding 3D printing raising any new challenges for the legal system?
In a word, yes. The emergence of 3D printing technologies is giving rise to a host of new and interesting legal issues, most notably in the area of intellectual property.
Are there any patent issues emerging because of 3D printing?
Yes, there are. In addition to the copyright issues that affect the emergence of 3D printing, there are a number of patent issues. Even though the very earliest of the patents that relate to 3D printing are expiring or soon to expire, the patent office has been overwhelmed with patent applications, reportedly as many as 7,000 over the last 10 years or so, relating to 3D printing. So not only is the technology patent protected in terms of the printing abilities, but also one must be aware that there are patents that protect or may protect the end products. So the patent issues are not so much around the coding and the printing files, but around the printing apparatus itself and the final end product.
Anyone that has a printer can print out anything. Let's say that someone prints out a handgun. Now, in the event that they go out and harm someone with this, where does the liability fall? And can we control the production of illegal products?
Well, ultimately, even though this is a complex technology, in the end, it's a manufacturing technique. It's in many ways like a new printing press. So ultimately, it seems clear that liability will rest with the end user, at least. There is the thought, however, that if there is a developer of a printing file that is useful for no purpose other than an illegal purpose, that perhaps the developer of that code could also be liable under related infringement theories or related theories of law.
Now, do you think this kind of technology should remain accessible to the general public?
Well, again, I like to look at this as a new manufacturing technology. So it is a disruptive technology, but ultimately it's something that should be available to everyone. And ultimately we can control through legal proceedings the end product that's created through this new manufacturing technology. But I think it's important that it be available to everyone.
Scott Blooney, thank you for your insight into the developing issues of 3D printing. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.
Thanks to Ryan for exploring some of the legal questions we must ask as 3D printing continues to develop. We hope we've given you a deeper understanding of 3D printing and how it's changing the manufacturing and design industries.
From cutting-edge technology to the generation that will carry us into the future.
Millennials, also known as Generation Y, have been stereotyped by many as lazy and self-centered.
They are the inspiration for the new book called The First Globals by public opinion pollster John Zogby.
This semester, Zogby visited Lafayette College and talked with reporter Kristin Heaney about why he thinks millennials are equipped to thrive and solve the problems of today and tomorrow.
On a campus full of First Globals, we asked college students to describe their generation.
If I were to define our generation, I would say that we're probably very flexible and we can adapt real quick.
Technology. Always connected to our cell phones.
Social networks. Collaborative. Technology.
To better understand what really defines this generation, I sat down with expert John Zogby to discuss his latest book, First Globals.
Well, for starters, they're those Americans born between 1979 and 1994. There's about 72 million millennials of that age, and I call them First Globals for really a variety of reasons, which we're going to talk about.
When you drew out the answers of who these people are, what did you find? What characteristics define First Globals?
20-somethings are always 20-somethings, but when history intrudes, it makes them into an age cohort and creates a set of values. This is the post-9/11 and the Great Recession generation. These values are formed.
You maybe touch on a few stereotypical criticisms of First Globals.
Yeah, they're lazy. They all got trophies, so they're spoiled. They all live at home. But I think at the same time, there are a lot of positive values that have been imparted. I think there's a misunderstanding, and that's what we're trying to clear up here by showing just how different this group is really from everyone else.
So would you define this generation as different or special in the way they kind of approach the globalization?
Almost 2 out of 3 said that being fluent in a foreign language is either very or somewhat important to my career and my success. No other age group was even close. And then their attitude towards other cultures was much more tolerant, much more accepting than even people who were just slightly older than they were. It means that they're less likely to be inclined towards war, more likely to want to resolve difficult issues because they're less inclined to see other people as the other.
Zogby also explains how First Global's approach to problem solving differs from the generations that came before them.
The rest of us are steeped in verticalism. You know, move a problem up the chain and try to find a solution that way. What I like about First Globals is that they're horizontal in the sense that they throw the problem out to their social network. It may go viral, but what they're looking for is an immediate solution, which they'll get. And then along the way, as the solution comes back, there's a chance to build consensus on it. So now that we know about First Globals, how do we empower them and unleash their potential?
Zogby hopes his new book will encourage First Globals to stop listening to the negative stereotypes and instead start living up to their fullest potential. I'm Kristin Heaney reporting for Lafayette Lens.
To watch more of our conversation with John Zogby, you can head to policystudies.lafayette.edu. So now that we have a better idea of who First Globals are, it's time to meet one.
And this member of the millennial generation isn't just a politician. He's built his career on connecting people and businesses using social media.
Reporter Matt Evans joins us to introduce Pennsylvania State Representative Mike Schlossberg.
Through the use of technology and social media, State Representative Mike Schlossberg has been able to launch his political career. We asked him for his take on First Globals in the workforce and how he uses social media to his advantage.
The first global generation is more comfortable with technology, with things like social media, the internet, email, things along those lines. And there's a cultural shift. We just act differently. Before I was elected to the House, I spent 5.5 years working for the Chamber of Commerce. I ran all of their social media. I did social media training and consulting. We did a Twitter town hall, kind of similar to what President Obama actually did. That's where I got the idea from. We used a hashtag called AskSchloss. I think by and large, businesses and investors are looking for younger employees who maybe have fresher skills.
Representative Schlossberg believes the full potential of social media has yet to be reached and expects it to become an even more integral part of the workplace.
I do think that as our generation continues to sort of matriculate into positions of power, the world will continue to change. Technology will become more open. But a big problem in this job is you are constantly struggling to get the feedback and the pulse of your constituents, but that can be hard. We've held town hall meetings and they were moderately well attended, but not everybody has time for that anymore.
Representative Schlossberg says the outlook for the future in politics and the workforce, as First Globals come into more senior positions, is bright. Through technology and social media websites such as Twitter, people can be brought together on a local scale or even on a global scale. Representative Schlossberg plans to use social media, such as the Twitter Town Hall concept and upcoming events, to reach additional constituents. Reporting for Lafayette Lens, I'm Matt Evans.
As we just saw, social media and technology can certainly play a role when it comes to being successful in the workplace. So what characteristics distinguish millennials when they apply for jobs?
Reporter Aimee Smith joins us now with representatives from 2 local businesses to evaluate the success of First Globals in today's workplace. Aimee?
Thanks, Dan and Kelsey. Joining us are Tamra Paxton from Olympus, a manufacturer of optics and photography products in Center Valley, and Bryson from Victaulic, a developer and producer of mechanical pipe joining systems in Easton. Thank you both for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Tamra, would you like to speak about some positive attributes of First Globals in the workforce?
Sure. Well, having grown up with technology, obviously their tacit knowledge is unparalleled. And they bring that with them to the workforce and help their teams towards the corporate goals. Also, they have a great sense of community that they also bring with them.
Catherine, would you like to speak about some positives as well as some negatives to the First Globals in the workplace?
Sure, absolutely. I think going along with Tamra's point, because of their comfort with technology, they have amazing research capabilities. And with little direction, they're able to dive into new information and come up with answers. On the negative side, I know it's something we've heard before, I think because of all the feedback and coaching that they've received from parents and teachers, there can be a little bit of a lack of adult-like thinking, a little bit more of a maturity curve than maybe we've seen with other generations. So companies like Victaulic, and I know Olympus has as well, have developed training programs and developmental programs to kind of give them that need for feedback and coaching and also help develop them professionally.
Tamra, how about some advice for First Globals entering the workforce?
Sure. Well, going back to that technology comment, while they're very well connected through technology, they should go and develop their personal, professional relationships. Those are the relationships that will help them in the future in a multinational, multi-generational workplace.
Catherine, how about you?
And I think that while we do have these rotational programs that help to give them their need for feedback and a kind of a specific career path, it's really important for First Globals to not be afraid to be their own best advocate and not be afraid to vocalize and insert themselves into the conversation about their career path and their goals professionally.
Thank you both for sharing your input. Now back to you, Dan and Kelsey.
Thanks, Aimee. As First Globals continue to shape the world, education is shaping First Globals.
Reporter Brendan Gover joins us now with Lafayette College President Allison Barley to discuss which factors have helped shape the millennial generation. Brendan?
Thanks, Dan and Kelsey. Allison Barley was inaugurated as the 17th president of Lafayette College on October 4th, 2013. She joins us today to share her perspective on how technology has played a role for students throughout their education and how these tools will be used in future years. President Barley, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here.
Could you talk a bit about the benefits that social media has had on higher education, especially for First Globals?
Well, I think when social media first entered the world of higher education, there was a lot of concern about the ways in which students might use it as a distraction from their studies or a sense that it might be competing with educational time. But I think a lot of faculty have worked hard to incorporate social media into some of their curricular plans, and many find it a helpful way themselves to stay connected with students.
Could you talk a bit about the detriments that it's had on students as well?
Well, I've sort of previewed that by noting that some people recognize that it forms distractions. Many faculty find that when they have students using laptops in the classroom, they have to be careful to keep the students focused on the classroom material. But I think that one of the things that people fear most about social media is a sense that students will lose track of the importance of the course and spend more time thinking of it as a social context. And that's why I think it's so important for faculty to try and balance that social and academic piece themselves within the course material.
In your time as a leader in higher education, as well as a full-time professor, what have you done to move into the social media medium and maybe connect with students a little bit more through social media?
Well, I've, like many faculty, I've sometimes used online discussion groups or Google Hangouts as spaces for classroom discussion. I find that really helpful. I also have a Twitter account myself and have enjoyed using that as a way to stay connected not only with students in classes, but now that I'm president of Lafayette, with lots of Lafayette students and Lafayette alums. So that's a great way to extend my relationships beyond the folks on campus to a larger community.
As a student, I'm also a follower, so I can relate to that.
Great, thanks.
Lastly, going forward, what are we going to see out of First Globals and out of technology in higher education?
Well, I think everyone recognizes that today's students are quite different in their understanding of how technology can both improve their educational experience, but also can help them make the transition from education into jobs beyond. I think there's a real focus for students on the kind of connectivity that they can achieve through social media, and I think many of them are already starting to figure out how to use that to their advantage. There are challenges with that, which I think everyone recognizes, but I think that students' incredible curiosity these days, their recognition that information is all around them and they can go out and find a lot of that themselves, makes them wonderful learners and will make them great in the workplace when they go out into the world.
President Byerly, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Back to you, Dan and Kelsey.
Interesting perspective from President Byerly. Thanks, Brendan.
So are First Globals truly global?
Do the stereotypes of millennials extend beyond the borders of the United States? Reporter John Floyd went to the campus of Lafayette College to ask international students their perspective.
Lafayette enrolls about 150 international students from 55 countries. Tamra Sohail from Pakistan has lived in 9 countries. He shared with us the cultural differences he has seen amongst First Globals.
I've noticed a lot of differences between Generation Y in America and my home culture. One of those is that sense of privilege that people in Generation Y in the United States feel, mainly because they're so interconnected constantly that they feel like they deserve to have all the opportunities that they see online. In the United States, social media is used in a form of passive activism where people like a status or create a profile picture. While back home, I think people more actively use social media to organize protests or to actually create more substantial change where it's possible.
Another student, Namrata Joshi from Tanzania, gave us her perspective on the impact of technology on First Globals.
Yes, it's all technologically based, and yes, we are dependent on technology, but we're making much more progress.
This is John Floyd for Lafayette Lens, reporting from College Hill.
Now, for the most important question of all.
Will First Globals overcome the challenges of today's society? Reporter Mac McGuire poses this question to Lafayette students.
On the campus of Lafayette College, we spoke with First Globals and posed this question. What challenges does your generation face, and are you equipped to handle them?
I think the biggest problem that our generation faces is tackling the problems that we recognize and see in the media.
Too caught up in technology.
It's our national debt level and also just personal debt.
Is our overall sense of entitlement.
No one knows how to talk face to face.
And they haven't quite dealt with overcoming the internet.
We sat down with Lafayette history professor D.C. Jackson to get his perspective on these challenges.
I mean, we're living through it right now. The idea that basically every email that anybody ever sends around the world is going to be tracked.
We don't have to do anything except be apathetic.
The college expense and how much it costs to actually go to college.
I don't think young people today are facing anything worse or better categorically than any other generation. They're just dealing with what they have, the cards that are being played out.
But it's all about jobs. If we have college grads, we get jobs, I mean, we'll be okay.
We'll see how well we're prepared after we graduate.
John Zogby, who has studied this generation, says the best way to be prepared is to stand out from the crowd.
Tell me what you did. So you worked as a cashier. Did you save your company money? So you worked as a playground director or a coach. Did you resolve a conflict? Did you make a decision that helped move your employer forward or your family forward? Tell me what you did and why it matters to me.
That was Mac McGuire reporting.
This thorough examination of the millennial generation shows we have more resources available to us than ever before.
Will First Globals command control of the 21st century or flounder in the face of negative stereotypes and perceptions? It's up to the millennials to rise to the challenge.
Thank you for joining us here on Lafayette Lens. Have a good night.